And, the reason they're going for the youngest they possibly can is what I talked about at the beginning when I got on with you. If you lay that as a foundation, that is going to be their thinking, that is going to be their beliefs, and that's who they're going to be as they grow up. There has to be actually an antidote, I think. I don't think that you can just stop it and that's going to be enough to fix the damage that's been done. I think that we have to actually go in there and untrain and retrain.
And what's going on in your life?
All right. Well, thank you for having me. Well, I've been a teacher for 18 years in the Santa Barbara Unified School District here in Santa Barbara, California. And I love teaching. I've taught 9 years of high school, 4 years of junior high school, and 6 years of elementary. And elementary is my favorite by far. It's funny because I worked my way down from high school to the elementary. But what was really great about it was seeing where kids were headed, and then seeing where they start and thinking about how to prepare them to move forward and to be successful. And so by the time I got to the elementary school, I was later in my career. I had already been teaching about 8 years or so, 10 years. And so I was better as a teacher. You learn and you grow and you change how you do things. And so when I got to elementary, I was like, this is foundational. And if we lay a solid foundation at this level, these kids can be successful in the future. And I was seeing that they were not being successful. And so I really made it my goal to lay a solid foundation. I kind of went back to the basics, was very routine and had good boundaries and made the classroom safe. And so I really watched for the 6 years I was at the elementary level, I watched the kids flourish. They, learned the basics, and then they just kept getting better and better. And I could put them in leadership roles, and I could teach them how to work as a group and identify their different giftings and, really empower them to take on the learning for themselves and feel capable and confident to do it. And so I believe in that process. And what's interesting is along the way, I encountered a lot of difficulties from mostly the administrators of the different schools. I would be very successful in whatever program I was building. And for some reason that seemed to be kind of threatening. And so I actually was involuntarily transferred a number of times. It was sort of a reward for being successful. But then what would happen is I would start to notice some of the issues that needed to be dealt with, and I would bring it up, and that was not acceptable. And so they rewarded me with involuntarily transfers several times. And I was like, wow. The first time I thought, oh, okay. I didn't really understand. But as it happened a couple of times, I was like, there's a problem. There is a policy problem, a policy that is set forth by the school board is what I've kind of come to understand, and the administration. And so
what do you think what is that policy? I mean, what is the foundation for this, you think? I mean, this has been going on for a while.
Yeah, well, I think the policy, from what I can understand and see now, is that if they are lowering the bar, the game of limbo, how they lower the stick each time to go under. Well, that's how they were dealing with problems, dealing with discipline problems, dealing with a decline in test scores and proficiency of kids. And so they keep lowering the bar. If you are somebody who's successful or showing success, you're going to make people look bad because they are trying to communicate a message like, oh, they're blaming it on everybody else. And so if you're lowering the bar to cover up your inability to teach or your inability to enforce consequences, discipline, or whatever behavior type things, then somebody who's doing the opposite, or, or asking those questions is going to be a threat, And
Yeah,
so
wow.
I've watched it over my 18 years. I remember when I first started, and they were going to lower they wanted to lower the expulsion rate. So they increased the amount of suspensions that a student could get in order to bring the rate down.
Right.
Well, you can only do that for so long. And so I think 18 years is long enough, and we are at an all-time low. And I don't think that limbo stick can go any lower,
Yeah, and have anybody have any success whatsoever, because it really disempowers those kids that are really trying hard. That's the problem, is that the morale, the saying, the beatings will continue until morale improves. It's kind of like that. It's like we're beating kids up. We're beating kids up with the nonsense,
right,
until nobody just feels like there's any point in it.
right. And not just the kids, the teachers,
Oh yeah.
The teachers this year, the union gave a survey of how they felt about the superintendent. The superintendent's only been here maybe like a year and a half, maybe 2 years at this point. And it was 53 pages of negative frustration, like get out of our town type comment. And the teachers have had it, and I think the hardest thing is they keep blaming it on everything else. And for some reason, sometimes it's hard for people to see what's really going on, because it's hard when someone lies to your face. The human brain has a hard time rationalizing.
Well, and now we have the perfect scapegoat, right? Now we have the perfect, since George Floyd, we have the perfect blame game,
right,
that we could ever have. And that's just mushrooming. That's just mushrooming.
Right.
So
and we've had 12 incidents. We've had 12 incidents in the last, I don't know, couple months of racial tensions within the schools, junior highs, high schools. And so it's because really,
people are getting there's so much friction. There's so much friction that's been created.
Yes.
Yeah. With what we're telling kids. So before we get into all that, which, that's really the meat here, I do want to learn a little bit more about your background.
Yeah.
Because I know you're a veteran.
I'm a mom. I have a 15-year-old daughter. And, for me personally, with my daughter, I've tried a lot of different things. I took her out in junior high and put her in a private school, because she was just, junior high is by far the hardest age for kids. And like I was saying, if you don't build a good foundation in elementary school, when you get to junior high, it's a time when you're practicing the things you've learned. And you are figuring out who you are as a person. You have hormones going crazy, and, and the social elements of school are really high, and the busyness just skyrockets in junior high. And so when she got to junior high, I was like, we have got to try something different. She went to a private school, and she excelled. She said, Mom, and she was the bar of work, the amount of rigor of work. It was like huge compared to what she was doing. And she would stay up late at night doing homework. She would get up at 6:30 in the morning to get all of her work done. But she said, Mom, for the first time, I love school. I thought I hated school, but I am being productive, and my teachers believe in me. And it was great. She had a great 2 years. And then Zoom happened. COVID happened, and she was on Zoom, and she's not the type of learner that could really handle Zoom. Zoom is very hard for certain types of learners. And so she homeschooled for 6 months, and she loved that. But she was pretty motivated to homeschool. So she was very good about keeping her schedule and getting her work done. And she's very strong that way. And so, besides just being a teacher and being in the environment, I've experienced as a parent how hard these things have been for kids and families. And so, I feel like it's one thing to think you understand. It's another thing to actually go through it and understand, because you've experienced it.
Right.
I'm also a veteran of the United States Air Force, and I signed up in 2001 and was deployed right away because of 9/11. And I served at LAX, stood guard there. And then in 2003, I was deployed to Germany, and I was part of an aeromedical evacuation squadron. And we supported Operation Iraqi Freedom out there in Germany. We would fly down airplanes into Iraq and Afghanistan, and take soldiers out and treat them in the Germany hospital. And so that was pretty amazing. And I am really glad that I had the opportunity to serve and to, again, experience what that's like. People, unless you've done it, you just really don't know. And when they're taking people off an airplane that have passed away, it's really, that served our country. It's very humbling. So,
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
I'm thankful that I got the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, that has to change you in ways that most people won't understand unless they've been through it.
Yeah.
It
and it makes me really sad when people, some of the things they say right now are just really mean and really disrespectful to our soldiers and to our country. And so, I understand that they don't understand, but that's not really an excuse.
Yeah, that's not. So, you decided on a career in education because
well,
after that,
I was an athlete in high school. I know it was something that saved me because academically I did well. I did well academically, but I probably would have been one of those kids diagnosed with ADHD. I had a ton of energy, and I went to Cal Poly up in San Luis Obispo, and they had a kinesiology program, and it taught me all about like physical education, and it was hands-on. So you learn by doing, and it was so fun. And then the classes, the kinesiology classes, the human anatomy and bio and all those things were just, I loved them. And so I was like, wow, if I could be a teacher and teach what I love to kids, it would be awesome. So
it wouldn't be a job, would it? It wouldn't be a job, it would be a passion.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it was hard at first. I remember when I first started teaching, I came home and said, why don't these kids like me? I thought they would just like me. That was junior high kids.
I was going to say, you're starting in junior high or high school?
Yeah, junior high, so you got to work on it. That's what I learned over time. And I learned that building relationships with the kids is the most valuable thing that I could do as a teacher, because if they trust you and they know that you love them, and you have good boundaries and good discipline with them, they'll walk on water for you. When I was at the elementary school, those kids would have walked on water, but I really learned how to build the relationships and listen to them and take them seriously, even if I wasn't going to do what they were asking, just to listen and know that and for them to know they have an openness to talk to me. And then I love what I teach. So they love it.
Yeah. And all that can take place without all the racial issues and without all. And so the next thing I want you to tell me about is this training and how it's just kind of upended your ability to be the teacher you want to be, because that's what I keep hearing and reading from teachers.
Yeah. So they started training teachers in this about 15 years ago. And, they say it's voluntary. Well, I don't think something that they're just throwing at you for 15 years straight is really voluntary. It's more like torture. And if you don't do it, then, you start to get left out because everybody wears down and they have to do it. And, I never did it. I didn't succumb to, what they wanted us to do. I think in my subject matter, it made it a little bit more easy for me not to do that because I'm a physical education teacher. Right. And there's a lot of, character things that I can teach as a physical education teacher. And a lot of this training was to develop a certain type of character or mindset in these kids, and so it's really undermined the system, the educational system, because it makes a kid think that they know better than the teacher, or that their opinion is most important, and that they don't have to listen to the adults, and they don't have to listen to their parents, and they don't have to do what people tell them. And because of the decline in supporting discipline and They brought in something called restorative approaches, which is that in and of itself a really good, it's sort of like conflict resolution skills. They're good, but I think that they implemented them to actually remove discipline. You can't remove, it's like hand in hand, like you do both. But they've tried to remove it. And so, you say the word restorative approaches and people will maybe cuss you out or roll their eyes or they hate it.
You mean teachers? Teachers will?
Teachers, kids, they're like, don't put me through another restorative approach. It's
what?
really,
Okay, explain that. What is it? Tell the audience what that is.
So when an incident happens between two kids, they'll bring them together and there will be a restorative conversation. So what happened? Who did what? Who could take responsibility for what? Can we, apologize?
And
you don't have to be friends, but you do have to be classmates, right? But if somebody was really treated wrong, to bring the perpetrator into the conversation, it actually re-victimizes the child, because this child should have a consequence. It was
straight up.
And so while the concept works sometimes, it's not always appropriate. And so that's been really difficult, and teachers and students have grown very resentful and bitter, and it's broken down the system, so.
Because the problem is there's no consequences. You're just supposed to kiss and make up.
Right.
And take responsibility. Okay. Yeah. I called that person that name, or I hit him in the face or whatever. Okay.
And
can you own that? I can own that. Well, now what?
Right.
It needs to be a consequence, right?
Or, what I've done, I do believe in natural consequences, but it's an action. It's not words coming out of their mouth.
Right.
It's an action of going around and making right what you did wrong. So for example, if, a kid, or even I heard this story about a teacher who was ripping a student in front of all the kids. It's like, well, restorative would be to then apologize to all of your classes that you humiliated this kid in front of, and you make it right. If you do it in public, you fix it in public, so.
Or you perform some service that really shows that you are actually sorry for, because you can say the words, but, really performing a service for somebody. Of course, that's not even in the realm of reality, I understand.
Yeah.
in the system.
Yeah.
So that's super interesting. And so it's a pseudo restoration.
Right. And I would even say, if you are sorry, you stop doing it. It doesn't repeat, because, I've seen kids who get bullied by little things, but when it's over a long period of time, it'll make them grab somebody and punch them because the behavior is not stopping. And so that's classically more what happens to kids in school that doesn't get dealt with.
Right. And so for 15 years, we've had the CRT training, the critical race theory training, which teaches the kids of color that they are victims of the system that's irredeemably racist and rigged against them. And it teaches white kids and white teachers that they are oppressing. I mean, am I getting this right? Tell me I'm saying this correct, so that people don't think, you just wouldn't believe the blow. I guess you would believe the blowback that you get when you say this, and people say, no, that's not at all what it is. That's not, yes, it is what it is. It is setting races against each other. It's absolutely oppressor and oppressed victim mentality. Right. And so teachers are encouraged to teach this to students. How does this play out in the classroom?
Well, I think the other thing too is they've brought it in to deflect from the actual learning. So if we're focusing over here on all these issues, they want to say, oh, all these issues have come up. So we really have to do this, critical race theory training. Well, first of all, it takes away from the actual learning that's supposed to happen.
Right.
And then
in the classroom. So if you're an English teacher, you abandon like reading and writing, and you start talking about the race issue.
Yeah. And it might be incorporated in the
Yeah.
reading and writing.
Sure.
But
So you're reading about
Mhm.
reading about race issues, and you're writing about race issues, but it's
Right.
about race issues.
Right. Right. And I would say that these people are more trained in teaching about the race issues than they are about teaching English. You know,
Right.
so then you get a lower quality teacher
Yeah.
who's maybe passionate about these issues. And so that's what they're focusing on. The English or math or whatever's taking a hit. And then kids are being, you know, then they spend a lot of time talking about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's constantly coming at the teachers. I constantly see it at staff meetings. There was a staff meeting recently at the high school where they brought in the president of the gay and lesbian club. She came into a teacher staff meeting.
This is
She
a
gave
student?
a whole, what's that?
A student?
A student. She's the president, and she gave a whole talk about this pronoun survey that all the teachers were to give the students. What does that have to do with
anything?
The learning
School
that's supposed to be taking place
Yeah.
for all the teachers of a high school. You know, that's a lot of teachers. So,
Wow. That's kind of crazy.
And then that's what they're going to focus on. You know, and it's not, again, mandatory. They always say these things aren't mandatory. Well, they kind of are, because the principal sent an email afterwards. We all need to be working on the use of our pronouns, and we all need to be giving this survey, and we need to, you know, so
do you think this is causing teachers to leave the profession? Is this really the basis of it?
I think that the lack of discipline, the lack of support for teachers, I think it all runs together. I don't think that a teacher would say it's because of critical race theory that I'm quitting. I think that the whole system has been engineered, you know, just like you're changing a mindset in kids. And, you know, the reason they're going for the youngest they possibly can is what I talked about at the beginning when I got on with you. If you lay that as a foundation, that is going to be their thinking, that is going to be their beliefs, and that's who they're going to be as they grow up. There has to be actually an antidote, I think. I don't think that you can just stop it and that's going to be enough to fix the damage that's been done. I think that we have to actually go in there and untrain and retrain. And so that's a lot of work.
Yes. Thank you so much for bringing that up. And I'll tell you, I've told this story before on other videos, but I'll just tell you, in 1997, I was on a school site council. My oldest was going into 8th grade. And in the spring, the last school site council that I attended, which I quit after that, they introduced it in a curriculum for 8th grade social studies, which was written with a grant from the federal government in conjunction with the Native American tribe that was in the area with this little small Southern California or Northern California town we lived in. And the entire social studies for that year was going to be researching all of the negative things from newspapers and letters and that had ever been said about the natives there in that area. And they were going to study that and read that. And then the white kids were going to write apology letters at the end. This was in 1997, 25 years ago. And of course I objected to that. And I have my own story about living in a Native American village for 2 years in high school, where I was the only white girl in the school. So I understand something about this prejudice, lived it firsthand, and overcame it through simply being nice back. You know, when I was spit on, I didn't get mad. I just, you know, I got involved in their lives and I became their friend. And there's a way to overcome these race issues through kindness and through patience and understanding and just not reacting.
Right. And some of the great Martin Luther King and Cesar Chavez, you know, if you read the things that they talked about, they were not about separating. They were about bringing together, forgiving and loving. And
and I tried to bring that up at the meeting and I said, look, if we want to have the, the white kids understand the Native culture better and what the kids went through, I am all for it. Let's tell the stories. Let's absolutely tell the stories of the trauma. But in the end, let's have some festivals. Let's have some food. Let's have some activities. Let's have some fun research about what makes this tribe and these Pacific Northwest Native tribes so amazing, because they are amazing, amazing people. And I came to love them with all my heart because of my experience. And be exposed to stuff that I had never been exposed to. Let me show you how to write a curriculum that will really heal everybody.
Because
they don't want to heal. And this is coming from the federal government 25 years ago.
And they want to make money off of it. And, I've always said the only reason you bring it up is to bring healing to that. If it needs to be acknowledged, we can acknowledge it. We can say that was wrong and we're not going to do it anymore. And then make it our goal to not do it. And that's the only reason, because for any other reason, you're going to re-injure, you're going to reignite,
re-traumatize, and I don't understand that bitterness. It's just such a dead end. It's an incredible dead end for kids. So you decided you were going to try to change things from the inside out.
So I started going and talking to people. I started talking to human resources. I probably went to the human resources department 4 times and had heartfelt conversations. I went to the president of the school board. I had coffee with her. We had a nice talk. I explained the policy issues that I saw. She said it was a great conversation. And then she wanted to actually meet with HR, and they actually refused to meet with the school board, which was interesting.
Wow.
Maybe there was a side conversation that happened, but the president of the school board requested a meeting. And so the meeting never happened. But I'm, I will do my due diligence. And so I went back and I talked to HR and did not get a good response to the issues I brought up. So I reached out to the superintendent. Superintendent never responded to me. She sent the chief financial officer to come talk to me. I don't go into those meetings by myself. So I brought a friend to go into the meeting with me. He refused to meet with me. He said, the only way we're having a meeting is one-on-one.
Nope.
Which is not appropriate. He's the one that, he's the administrator at the district office and I'm a teacher.
Right.
There should be a third party.
Yeah.
And so he refused to meet with me. I said, well, let's reschedule and you can bring somebody and I'll bring somebody. And he never got back to me. So I did my due diligence to have those face-to-face conversations. I started going to school board meetings, speaking up, talking about, there's a lot of people that come to school boards that say, what school boards want to hear, but we all started coming and saying what we wanted to have them hear. And, we were stonewalled for months. And I'm not the type of person to do something over and over again, expecting a different result.
You're not insane?
I'm not insane. Well, I'm like, what else can I do here? Okay, I'm going to make a video. So I made a video because I'm like, if the school board won't listen to me, I'm going to go to the people.
Yeah.
I'm going to let the people know this is what's going on. And it's not very often a teacher does that because it's a risk.
Oh,
it's a huge risk. And I know I have courage. I'm a veteran. I know, I think things through. I don't just do things without thinking, but you have to calculate the risk. And so prior to that, I was being retaliated on at the high school I worked at. So
from other teachers and the administration,
from the teachers, from the administration specifically, and then the parents, and then the administration was letting students misbehave and cause stress for me in my class. I mean, it was pretty unbelievable. And so I have a lot of sick time. So I was like, all right, I'm going on leave because this is a hostile work environment and I am going to preserve myself.
Yes.
And so I had to do that. I didn't really have a choice. Again, had a meeting, brought the community members with me. I've been a union rep over the years, but the union's nowhere to be found.
Really?
They are working in lockstep with the administration. They are not, teachers are paying them, and they are working in lockstep with administration.
Yeah,
And
that's a whole
taking
nother,
their money.
that's a whole nother interview. And, you know, like I mean, you know, my parents were both career public school teachers, and my parents railed. I mean, they quit back in the early 80s.
Yeah. Yes.
They hated the unions back then.
Yes. And they have come for me. They have done all kinds of things.
Oh my gosh.
Come against me, because I'm not afraid to send mass emails to all my coworkers and say, get out of the union, stop paying these dues. They're not helping us. I've done that. And they've come after me, and I'm still here. I'm still standing. I'm still here.
You need to write a book, Christy. No, I mean, you really need to help people. These interviews are great, but you really need to detail everything that's happened to you, and just how hard you've tried to just get basic steps forward to help kids.
Right. So I made the video, and that got picked up. You know, they like to criticize me that it got picked up by Fox News. But if you're trying to expose something, whoever picks it up, you're going to go for an interview.
Of course.
If CNN picked it up, if, you know, MSNBC, whoever, I would have been there. You know, it's not
gonna happen.
It's not a Fox News thing. So, so that happened, and and there's been a lot of interviews and talks since then. And then these elections started to come forward, and some people approached me about running for different offices. And when they came up with the county superintendent office, I was like, I felt that in my heart, like that is where I could make the most change. And I didn't really understand that position at first. I was like, no, I don't really know. Like, what does she do? But as we investigated what can be done at that level, we were just astounded, and nobody has challenged that position for 40 years.
Okay, tell me about that position.
So she is the county superintendent of schools, oversees 20 districts in our county, 67,000 kids, and over half of those kids are below the state standards.
Wow.
Over half. It's over $1 billion worth of taxpayer dollars that go into this system that she approves. And so it's huge, which explains why when I filed to put my name on the ballot, they filed a lawsuit against me.
Who did?
To get my name off the ballot, because they wanted to say that I didn't have the credential.
Yeah, who did that?
I do have the credential, the administrative credential. There's one technicality. It's like being at the top of a slide and just waiting for them to give you a ticket to go down the slide. That's about as technical as it gets with regards to my credential. It's until I have a job, I can't file the paperwork and pay the $100 fee to get the paper credential. Simple as that. And so fortunately, the judge saw that and she agreed with me. And what's awesome is there was another case that this had happened to somebody in my same situation, where he hadn't been hired as an administrator yet. So he didn't actually have the paper in hand, but he has the certificate of eligibility, which is still a credential. And he filed with his county, and they refused to put his name on the ballot. And last week, my judge ruled in my favor that my name stays on the ballot. And yesterday, this one went to court, and the judge ruled to put his name on the ballot too. Yay. So, it's one of those things where, the fight is hard, but we're making progress. We're making steps forward. And so that's really exciting that, judges, I wouldn't say they've always done the right thing, but maybe
but there's still hope in the judicial system.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's very exciting. So what now? I mean, do you think you can win this?
I think I have a great chance of winning this. I think that, parents are fed up. They need to understand.
It's such a complicated issue.
What's that?
The problem is it's such a complicated issue, right? I mean, it's simple when you.
It's simple.
If
They
you
try
sit
to
down and
make it
understand.
complicated.
Right. It's really
you
actually
know?
simple, but there's a lot of work to do.
There is a ton of work
You
to
have
do.
so much work to do, and changing the status quo, people get nervous about
But you
that.
know, I'm a visionary, and I know that there is a lot of experts that have been sidelined along the way. I've talked to some of them.
Mhm.
And so, you know, it's a matter of bringing those experts in. They're waiting in the wings. We have all kinds of people waiting in the
Nice.
wings to step in and do what they do best. And it just takes somebody who's willing to upset the status quo, take over, and then empower those people to go do their job.
Yeah.
And so I think it is simple. You know, it's a lot of work, but it's good work. It's productive work. It's work that people will be so excited to do. They're passionate about it. And so,
Yeah,
you know, there's work on both sides. What's harder, living under all this
yeah,
like
right.
garbage, or doing work that's going to take us forward and provide something for the future of our kids?
Thank you for saying that, because
Mhm.
life is hard. All
Yeah.
jobs are hard.
Yeah.
And when you fight the good fight, you can continue to just fight the system, or you can fight to change the system.
Yes.
But it's a fight.
Yeah.
It's going to
I'd
be a
rather
fight
have the
either way.
fight to change the
Yeah,
system.
let's
That's
try.
why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yes, let's do something positive instead of
Yes.
just treading water.
Yes.
I am so excited for you. And I think that, and I really, really mean it. Get with somebody. I mean, there's so many good, talented people. I would do it, but I'm too busy. But you really, the point is that this is where it needs to change then. You know, each person needs to find that path. I mean, people don't know what to do. They just don't know how to change the system. They don't know how to fight the unions.
Yeah.
And you're never going to stop fighting.
Right.
Never. If you get in the rest of your life, they're going to always try to destroy you, because really, I believe that it starts with the unions. I really do. I think that it starts right there, because they have so much money and so much political power to influence politicians and elections and teachers. You know, they just have too much power.
Yeah. So 90% of the problem is bringing awareness. And that's
Yeah.
what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing right now. That's what I'm doing.
Right.
It's like we're winning already because we're bringing awareness. We're helping people understand what is the real problem. It takes time to explain. And, you know, sometimes I always say when the pain of hanging on becomes greater than the pain of letting go, change will happen.
Yes.
So if there has to be some pain for the teachers, or there has to be pain for the
Yes.
parents, that's actually what will bring the opportunity for change.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be best if they could just listen to your words, but, you know, actions speak louder than words right now. They've been told a lot of things. They're sick of lip service, you know, and I don't blame them. And that's why I prefer to lead by example. You know, it cost me money to have a lawsuit. It cost me money to run for this office. It cost me my reputation. It may cost me my job, but I'm willing to make those sacrifices because I believe in it. So we all have to be willing to make those sacrifices.
Amen to that. And let us know if there's any other way we can help you with this, because we are in this fight with you. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And let's have a follow-up. When is the election?
The election is June 7th.
Okay.
So right around the corner.
Let's try to have a follow-up in the summer about how this has all come out. Oh, I just admire you so much.
Thank you.
And we need more Christy Lozanos for sure.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
And people just have to find their sphere of influence.
Yeah.
You know,
you're changing the world, though. You're changing the world. No, I'm serious.
Well,
you're changing the world. And 50% of parents who have failing kids in the school they're behind you. I'm sure they are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Well,
Thanks
thank you
again so much. All right.
Yes.
Good luck in everything.
Okay.
Talk later. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.